Hey, welcome to TPS. It's the Protagonist Show. I'm Dan Vaughn, joined by the ever charming, ever handsome Mr. Joshua Duder. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Back again. Back, my friend.
We've circled back. We've made it a second week in a row. I'm proud of us. I know.
Good habits.
Good habits. Not quite as consistent as the US Open Cup, which has been going for a significantly longer time than the Protagonist Show.
They've had their blips. In 100 and something years, you're going to have your blips.
Thanks a lot, COVID. Well, round 3 took place this week, and that's where we're starting this episode of the Protagonist Show. Let's review some results, talk about the matches that stood out to us. We don't yet have round 4 matchups, at least as far as I'm aware, but we will have MLS involved at that point. We might have. Didn't the draw take place?
It did. And I said, in the running order, down at the bottom, it said round of 32 does not kick off until Tuesday, May 6th. We'll go over the draw between now and then sometime.
Understood. You know what? I should read the fine print, right? That's what they always read the fine print.
But it's there.
Well, let's look at the matches. My apologies, Mr. Duder. You're correct. Columbus Crew 2-0, Pittsburgh Riverhounds 1, Louisville City FC 2, Loudoun United 1, Charlotte Independence 1, NCFC 3. I saw this note and didn't know what it means. What does that mean, Mr. Joshua Duder? What is this name here that you're?
Olex Anderson is basically a Rolls Royce of a player that plays for North Carolina FC, and a nickname that he has gathered up for himself is Golex Anderson.
Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. So it didn't make a lot of sense when I read it. I thought maybe it was a typo.
Now you know. That's half the battle.
Portland Hearts of Pine 1, Rhode Island FC 2. Rhode Island FC scored the early 2 and then had to kind of hold on for dear life as Hearts of Pine battled back. But everyone's new favorite, the new Vermont Green, Hearts of Pine exited. I bet Hearts of Pine supporters wouldn't like that very much.
No.
Charleston Battery 4, Tormenta FC 0, Union Omaha 1, knocking off championship side San Antonio FC. This is a returning thing for them, isn't this? Union Omaha, they know what's
tradition.
Up.
Yeah.
Yep, a tradition like no other. AV Alta FC 2, OCSC 2, and then AV Alta advance in penalties over OCSC. So that's another League One side knocking off a USL Championship side. Tacoma Defiance 2, Oakland Roots 1. So that again is also a League One going through. So no.
That's a Major League Soccer Next Pro team going through.
Oh, wow. You're right. That's a mistake on my part. You're right.
And what's particularly interesting about that game, I was told by Jeremiah Oshan, who runs Sounder at Heart and also Nos Arietes podcast covering the Sounders and all things Seattle, informed me that as Tacoma advanced round after round, they have been loaning more and more first-team players down from the Sounders as the team progresses. So initially it started as all academy kids, but now as they head into the round of 32, the Seattle Sounders organization is going to take this a little bit more seriously. And we'll get into this in a future episode, but they have drawn the Portland Timbers. So this could be very ugly, very quick.
You say ugly, but I say it gets very soccery, right? This is what rivals do. We may see a full MLS side at that point, I guess, huh?
Maybe
half. And I'll be transparent. I don't know how, the Sounders are right now. I have no idea if they could knock off the Timbers or not. I really don't know.
They always can. It doesn't matter their form. It's the way that goes.
There you go. But anyway, Oakland Roots then lose to an MLS Next Pro side, at least.
No bueno.
At least on paper, it's an MLS Next Pro side. So There you go. That's my half of the round 3 results.
Yeah, and as I interrupted you several times, feel free. FC Naples 1, Tampa Bay Rowdies 1. It took Tampa 10 rounds and penalties to advance past a defiant FC Naples, who I dropped an article about earlier in the week. A very well-constructed team. I expect a lot out of them in USL League 1 this year. DCFC 3, Westchester SC 1. Detroit handled their business.
That match was testier than I expected, to be 100% honest with you. I know Detroit City scored first. Westchester came back and scored one, and then I think Detroit got a penalty. I don't know how they scored that third goal. I didn't see that one, but it was a little closer than I expected there in Keyworth. But you always love the Open Cup in Keyworth. It's good times.
Yeah, and Alex Ashton, League One updater, had kind of given us a scoop on Westchester at the beginning of the League One season and said that they did despite their lackluster logo, had done a knockdown, drag-out job of recruiting talent, and they should be a really well-constructed team for their level. So expect more from them. Indy 11 won the Miami FC 0. It was a late winner for Hayden White in the 123rd minute. So Indy 11 move on. FC Tulsa 1, Phoenix Rising 1. Phoenix advance after penalties, and you're going to see a little trend here in the second night of this round, advancing in penalties, and it's the away side that seems to be doing it. That's very interesting. Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC 3, 1 Knox SC 2. The USL Championship champions from last year get the 103rd minute winner into added on extra time. New Mexico United 2, El Paso Locomotive 2. El Paso advance after penalties.
I would also say it is worth noting that this is not your daddy's El Paso Locomotive here. This is a much more competitive team. We've seen a lot of improvement from last season to this season, and I'll have you note, this is their third Open Cup win all time, and also their third this tournament. So they're having a good run of form, and certainly not something that they've done in the past.
Keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Choo choo. Sacramento Republic 1, El Farolito 0. That was a well-played game. I think Sacramento, the coach, the players, they all applauded the effort by El Farolito, and they continue to impress year after year. So $50,000 goes to El Farolito as I think they've gone the longest as of all the amateur sides. So there's a lot I think a team at that level can do. They have squads that play in NPSL still, so we'll see where they go with that. But they also play, I think, in the San Francisco Soccer Football League. I'm not 100% sure if they might have a junior squad in there, but I know that they do a lot of stuff in their community too. So El Farolito is a good program, and that money's going to go a long way.
Last year's Protagonist Soccer Club of the Year.
Absolutely. Las Vegas Lights 2, Chattanooga Red Wolves 2. Chattanooga Red Wolves advance after penalties.
Their second round that they've won on penalties. If you remember, they also did that in the Chattanooga Derby as well. I wanted to know, are we cheering for the Red Wolves now?
They're a USL League One side, and they beat a championship side. And as protagonists, we root for the underdog. And they're Wolves, so technically, they're under Red Wolf dogs.
Oh my God!
No,
Mr. Duder. Well, what did you think of this round? I thought it was a lot of fun soccer. We did not get as many, I think, cup sets as I think everyone is sad.
We had a few, but there were.
When El Farolito bombs out, it's always the sad day because we always root for them. But it felt like really good soccer matches sort of through and throughout this entire thing. I was fun. There was a lot of excitement online. I was seeing people post clips. I posted clips of that Indy 11 banger for the win. It was just, and the call on that was absolutely appropriate to the moment. The screaming and the I'm all for that stuff. I love some excitement around the Open Cup. I really felt like a really good round all told before we get MLS involved and the big boys start slapping people around.
I love seeing how much it means to these teams, and I think these are the rounds that we get to see that the most as they start to disintegrate, fall out of the tournament, and move on with the regular seasons, which will be just fine. I will be a little disappointed to see teams like Portland Hearts of Pine out. I think they're a great story. Omaha persists to be a great story, so that's one I'll look forward to. I was disappointed that Charleston Battery gave Tormenta such a thumping. I think Tormenta is a team that we enjoy watching do well also. So there's some teams that we'll just have to continue to root for in League One. The League Two sides are all out. Amateur sides are all out now. So now it's just rooting against big bad Major League Soccer.
So we only have one MLS Next Pro team that advanced. Is that right? Or is it more than that?
I believe Crew 2 got knocked out.
And Tacoma Defiance did get through, so they're I think the only remaining MLS Next Pro side.
That's right.
Well, that's good to see. We love to see that.
Good people up there. I'll cheer them on.
All right, listen. We talked about this pretty extensively on a podcast I was recently on. If you,
I did listen.
You did. Look at you. I'm so proud of you.
You're my bestie friend. Of course, I listened.
Earlier this week, I got a phone call and was invited to be on the Scuffed podcast, which I am a big fan of. If you don't listen to Scuffed, they are a primarily U.S. men's national team, but they've also begun focusing on the U.S. women's national team as well. But so they are prone to focus on that, but they've been doing these secondary interviews as a way to sort of fill content in the later half of the week. And I got the call up and was able to talk a little bit about what we do at Protagonist, as well as a lot of this lower league soccer stuff. And because one of the hosts of that show is from the Chattanooga area, they were very interested in my take on that, which I was terrified. I'll be honest with you. I was not. I was terrified to talk about that.
I mean, it's not like Jim can come through your podcast microphone and your headset and attack you. All he could do is block us and not like us anymore.
That's
I think
fair.
He blocked us and not liked us for years. So
I listen. I have always said that social media, you should filter it. You shouldn't let unfiltered takes come into your world that you don't want. If you disagree with me, you can always unfollow, unlike, unsubscribe. Don't do it on YouTube. We'd like you to keep subscribing to this.
There was a post. I made a little social media post after listening to that Section 109 podcast, which feels like everybody has listened to, and they should go out and listen to this.
Which they talked about on the Scuff podcast.
Yes, they did. And it's an important listen. So go and do it. It'll give you some insight. But I had a funny story that I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And that was a very enlightening podcast to listen to. But now I understand why. Several years ago, we were doing an end of year super duper Protagonist Christmas special. We invited all of our friends on in this staggered thing that drove you nuts because there was so much editing. You're like, I hate you, Josh.
Yep, I did.
We're never recording again. But I invited Jim on, and I think I either got him confused with somebody else, or I just didn't know how sensitive this USL subject was. So we were doing, I used to do these, these questions, trivia things that I used to do. And it basically was like USL history. And he's like, I don't even want to participate. I hate this guy. And I think he blocked me after that for like a year.
Yeah. I reached out to him for the article that I wrote about that Chattanooga Derby 2 weeks ago. And when I messaged him, he took a while to respond, and he actually, when we finished up with the interview, he texted me afterwards, said, he goes, yeah, I don't know that I was really interested in talking to you about that. I wasn't sure. And I'll give him credit because we had a very, I felt, fair conversation, and it informed me a lot. I think that a lot of times when you're dealing with like an area specific story, you might not be aware of everything that's happening there.
Yeah.
And so you bring your biases, your views, your perspectives in, and sometimes it doesn't sit well with people that might be have more skin in the game, one, but two, also might have more information than you. And you do your best, you give your best take. That's what the job's about, right? And at some level, you try to make the best informed decision that you can in the way that you cover things. I still disagree with some things that they did. I still agree with some things that they did.
Sure.
I understand better their reasoning. It doesn't mean I agree with it. I'm okay with all that.
I think you nailed it on the Scuff podcast, and we can move on after this but basically when you said the older I get, the longer I do this, it's the more I understand that there's nuance, there's a lot of gray area with everything. And I think that my takes and your takes, my takes as well, are a lot less solid, I'm a lot less opinionated about everything, and I'm more willing to listen to what everyone else has to say, because my job is just to listen and tell stories.
I will follow it up and agree with myself and with you as well, and say that I think that's a very good way of saying that. And it also reminds me of times over the last 10 years doing this, where I've talked to someone and wanted them to have a more fiery take on something, and they give me nuance, and I'm kind of like come away with it being like, oh, come on, man. But the reality is that oftentimes there's just a lot more gray area than we want to give credit for. But yeah, good stuff. Interesting. There you go. I guess we're cheering for the Red Wolves, though.
Don't tell Jim.
Yeah, don't touch it. No, that's how we go. Well, speaking of things we're cheering for, the WPSL, Women's Professional Soccer League, I believe that's what that stands for. WPSL Pro was announced. Sean Jones, who is the co-founder of the WPSL, and if you'll remember, the WPSL is also part of the League for Clubs. It's the league that's overseeing that club and got them sort of up and off the floor rolling. But they apparently were initially set to launch WPSL Pro as a third division, but decided to go a bit harder on the women's side. And according to Sean Jones, WPSL Pro is the bridge that's been missing. WPSL Pro is going to launch as a Division II women's league, which would technically be beneath currently the USL Super League and the NWSL. It's expected to launch with an abbreviated fall season after the 2026 Men's World Cup, then a full April to October season beginning in spring of 2027, which, if you'll remember, is different from what the Super League currently does, but it would be in line with the NWSL. Is that correct?
I believe
I don't know the NWSL. Yeah.
NWSL as it stands, right? I don't know.
Unless they change, who knows?
I think that there very well may be changes in all professional soccer in the United States. I think, though, amateur soccer, I think, is maybe stuck the way it is just due to the college schedule and the need to fill their summer rosters with those college players. So we may not see a switch in Division III. We may see, but we may see that switch Division II and Division I at some point.
According to a league spokesperson, each team will pay a $1 million franchise fee joining. And if you're doing the math there, they're expecting to launch with between 16 and 20 teams. 15 are already confirmed. The league put out the list, and that list does include the Cleveland Pro team, it was the hopeful, I guess, NWSL expansion side. That did not happen. NWSL did not choose them. And so they're deciding to launch with WPSL Pro. Josh, do you want to read through the other teams? We can sort of get a list of who's going to be here. And I can put this up on the screen as well.
Sure. I did also want to add that with that Cleveland deal, they also had an MLS Next Pro team in the fold instead. So there is a little bit of overlap with MLS Next Pro and WPSL Pro. I think we'll see some of these teams that I read off in the future. Some presently are already teamed up with MLS Next Pro organizations, and I think that you'll see more of that in the future. So here's the list that I found. It was Austin Rise, AC Houston Sur, Cleveland Pro, aforementioned, Georgia Impact, Indios Denver, North Dakota Fusion, Northern Colorado Reign, Oklahoma City FC. So that's Sean Jones's, I think, the team that he ran or runs, founded. Real Central, or is it Real Central, New Jersey?
It's Real Central, New Jersey. I know this because of the Scuff podcast. They had Ira on who talked about that. It's called that because there is a Real Central, New Jersey. That's why it's called that.
And John Howard Fusco told me for years there wasn't. So the Town FC, and I know this team is affiliated with MLS Next Pros, currently representing, I think, the San Jose Earthquakes in the West. Sioux Falls City FC, great organization, really good people run that team. WPSL SoCal, so I bet they probably don't have a name yet, or they're not ready to reveal which WPSL team might be jumping up, but there are some historically really solid teams in SoCal. So we'll see which one it is, or combination thereof. Soda City FC, their men's team, I think, recently won the UPSL. I think it was either last spring or this recent winter. South Star FC and FC Wichita. Again, FC Wichita is a great story. If you don't know about them, go Google them. But I think we ran an article about them several years ago. Maybe I'll try to rerun that at some point.
So all of these teams are on the list already. They're already confirmed, with the league saying there might be another 3 or 4 teams that might become involved with this project as it goes forward. If you're not aware, and I think I mentioned this, that the NWSL and the USL Super League is above this Division 2 coming league, WPSL Pro. Nothing in US bylaws says you can't have multiple leagues at the same level, which of course is true at, obviously we know at D3 level there's plenty of leagues at D3 level on the men's side. On the and now there is only one D2 league at this point in the men's side, but on the women's side this is new territory, and one wonders if the launch of the USL Super League kind of spurred this on as shaking things up, shifting the way in which things are operating so far. I guess my ask is, what do you think of this, Josh?
I wonder if this is reactionary, as you sort of said in different words. I know that these leagues, and this isn't to disparage them, but I think that each league, since I've been following them, is always sort of looking to get a leg up on another. Right? There's always, how do we prove our value to our investors, or how do we? Some of these teams exist solely as top of the developmental funnel, so that they can continue to take payments from families who put their kids through academy programs, right? So you've played soccer for 15 years through our academy program. Here's the end of the funnel. You can continue to pay and play for our first team. Some teams exist for that and are totally transparent about it. That's not a disparaging remark. It's just the truth. And I think sometimes these leagues, they can see the writing on the wall. If we don't react now, what USL is doing with the W League and what they're doing with the Super League, they may well fill in that gap, and they may have looked at what USL was doing with the men's, or their men's tiers, and going, okay, it's only a matter of time before some of those higher level W League teams, but some of those those aspiring Super League teams come together to form a second division. So I think this is maybe, I wouldn't be surprised to see these teams affiliate themselves with NWSL in the near future as well. I think that now we're sort of seeing competing not promotion relegation, but just competing organizations looking for money, time, attention, and talent. So one of the things that I think bothered people when Super League launched, or even when W League launched a couple years ago, was this real concern with, well, how would having all of these new teams impact the talent pool? Which, I mean, I think between UWS and WPSL prior to the W League, there were something like 180 amateur women teams out there. Mm-hmm. And then you add the W League onto that, which took teams here and there, but also created some. Have you noticed or heard anyone say anything about the talent pool being impacted, or is this having the inverse effect where it's creating more opportunity and therefore more players can come up through these programs?
I think that I couldn't speak to the specifics of how it's impacting the player pool. I don't have that information. What I will say is, I have a general theory when it comes to women's soccer, which is, if there's more paid roster spots, I'm for it. When the Super League launched, there were NWSL fans and NWSL proponents who were opposed to its founding because they felt like it would challenge the NWSL and that it was too early for the NWSL to be challenged like that. I think that from my perspective at that time, and I still feel that way, was that if there are paid positions for women to play soccer, I'm for it. This is a segment of the sporting population that has been pretty much ignored for the vast majority of professional soccer in this country. The women's leagues have always been underfunded. They've been undersupported. The MLS has been known to try to squash women's leagues as they grow, in effort to grow its own. And the rise of the NWSL is a good thing for women's soccer. I would argue that the Super League is a good thing for women's soccer. And I think the WPSL Pro is not a bad thing either. I will say that I've spoken with Sean Jones many times for other stories about the WPSL, about the League for Clubs, which he helps oversee. And I could say he has a heart for women's soccer. And when you speak to him, he is very careful to talk about that his approach is always focused on giving women opportunity in the sport.
Yeah, I wanted to say
And
something to that actually. Yeah, I think that if there was one thing I could hope does come from this is that what we have noticed covering these leagues is that primarily the coaches, the assistant coaches, the physios, they're all men. Not all, oftentimes there are women, and I think we see a growing number of women that are filling those professional roles as well. But not only paid positions as players, but transitioning from players over into professional positions within organizations as CEOs, CFOs, head coaches, developmental presidents of this, that, whatever it is, to see more women fill in those ranks and find paying jobs within professional paying jobs within those ranks as well. I think that's super important.
yeah, I do. I think that that's a good call out as well. We want to see. That's something that if you listen to the Super Show with Danielle Goronsky and myself and John Howard Fusco, Danielle often highlights that women should be given opportunities at the executive level to play a deciding role in how the league functions moving forward. And I think that having women with strong voices and the power with which to help, shape the league and shape the sport moving forward is absolutely vital to a more equitable future for women's professional athletes. So listen, I would argue that I don't know where this is going as far as these different divisions and who's involved, but I can say that I am all for women getting an opportunity to get played to play the game of soccer. I'm for that, honestly. So we'll see how it goes. And there's a lot of cool clubs on this, and it's going to open up doors in different markets that maybe haven't seen professional clubs. It's a real opportunity to do some cool stuff. And some of these clubs have had real success at other levels at other leagues. So to me, it makes sense that you could see that professionalism roll over and maybe generate, excellence on the women's side as well. Josh, let's look forward to our match previews from this weekend. I'll start us off. I'm looking forward to a USL Super League matchup. This happens, we're recording on Friday afternoon. This happens tomorrow afternoon. Carolina Ascent versus Spokane Zephyr. I love Spokane because this is a team that struggled to get their feet under them as the season kicked off. They had a lot of interesting, cool players, including my favorite, who I've talked about on this show before, Amina Ekic, and they are now within 2 points of sliding into a playoff spot, and I don't think anyone wants to play this team. I will also say Carolina Ascent is a team that started off the season at the top of the table, slid down a bit, and now has climbed back up to the top of the table. So this is two teams on positive trajectories playing against each other. I am all for this matchup. I am very excited about this. It's going to have massive playoff implications.
How many weeks are left in the season here?
I think we're down to maybe like 4 weeks. We're almost done. Yeah. And then the playoffs.
Squeaky bum time. Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs.
Talking about playoffs.
Very nice. Speaking of playoffs, this is the game that I'm picking to watch. Leg 2 of the Ron Newman Cup final in MASL soccer. We had a podcast. We have a podcast off the wall. We get together sometimes. We talk about indoor soccer. This is the final for MASL. Should be very exciting. Soccer's won the first match 7-5 at home. They go on the road to Chihuahua Savage on Easter in Mexico. Should be very exciting. Yeah, and as we record on a Good Friday, so it's a very holiday heavy weekend. San Diego, we're 0-2 in Mexico. Thank you for that note. And this game will be on CBS Golazo for those that are interested in watching at the same time I am.
Who doesn't love a cup final, especially a second leg of a
second
cup
leg?
Final. San Diego's chance to knock off Chihuahua Savage, and Chihuahua, who I think they're going for, is this a fourth, a lot in a row?
More than 2.
Yeah. I mean, Chihuahua is just a really good indoor soccer team.
Good.
So
yeah.
All right. Well, if we're going to do this, let's do this off topic. Let's go. We just talked about WPSL Pro and the launch of this Division II Women's League, and I said I'm for it, and I am. But it is time for the U.S. Soccer Federation to get involved with how all these leagues interact with each other and create some kind of functioning pyramid that actually works, where we understand it and leagues can actually build towards the future. Because right now it's chaos and everyone's taking advantage of that, but that doesn't make it any less chaotic. That's what I'm saying. Joshua, I think it's time for you to talk because I have done enough talking. How about you tell me about your off topic?
Last week I got a little political. This week I'm gonna take it down a notch. I'm a kit nerd. One of the first shirts I ever got was a 1997 Newcastle United long sleeve shirt by Adidas. I love long sleeve shirts. I have several of them in my closet. Dan, this is not for everybody, but I picked up this long sleeve shirt by Providence FC, and I just saw that the Richmond Kickers released a beautiful shirt by Hummel, also long sleeve, red button. Get it.
I do not approve of long sleeve shirts. Not a fan. I live in El Paso, sir. Long sleeve, yeah. No need for it. Well, Joshua Duder, excellent job on this edition of TPS. How do you feel about it?
See you next week.
I guess so.
See you next week.